Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to all of you signing in now in Zoom. Welcome to everyone catching us on Facebook throughout the day, this week, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're watching us from. I'm grateful you're with us. Grateful to have you with us today. At First Church, First Center, we celebrate our oneness, knowing that no matter where we are in the world, we are always connected in spirit. This is more than a Sunday gathering. It's a sacred space where we come together to be uplifted, to be inspired, and to be reminded of who we really are. Here, we don't just study principles, we learn how to apply them. We learn how to practice them. We don't just listen to truth, we learn how to live it. Here, we learn how to awaken to our highest potential. Our mission is simple but powerful. It's to empower you with spiritual tools to live a life of greater freedom, love, and with greater joy. Before we continue, let's take a moment to center ourselves in this truth. I'm going to start with a little poem, The Light You Carry. You're not bound by yesterday's weight, nor are you shaped by the shadows long and late. The path before you is fresh and bright, calls you forward, always into the light. The wisdom sought is wisdom within, a sacred spark beneath the din. Love and joy are yours to claim, a whispered truth, a steady flame. So stand in power, trust and know, life expands as you let go. Yes, as you let go. So we want to take a moment again to welcome everyone, welcome our new attendees. If this is your first time with us, we're glad to have you here. We're glad to have you with us. Please make sure we have your email, and if you're watching us later in any of the social platforms, send us a message. We'd like to stay in touch with you. And if you're on YouTube, please like our channel and subscribe. So thank you, everyone, again. Each and every one of you who shows up each and every week to support this wonderful community. You are all the reason we do what we do. As always, I invite you to participate in any way that feels right to you, whether it's listening, studying, or maybe you're someone who shares in the chat, or simply for those of you who are present. If this teaching is meaningful to you, we're really glad you're getting something or a lot out of it. If you'd like to support our work, there's always options in the chat. But the main thing to realize is your presence is the best thing. It's the greatest thing of all. I want to give a couple announcements. We have 3 broadcasts, 3 gatherings. Wednesday at 7, Jimmy does the Creative Living series, where we explore spiritual principles that will enhance our creativity, cause us to grow, and the art of inspired living. So that's the focus for Wednesday. Thursday evening at 7, with the same Zoom links, I present the Louise material based upon her book, You Can Heal Your Life. It's a powerful gathering. It's been going on week after week for many years on her teachings of self-love, healing, and transformation. And our third broadcast is Sunday mornings, where we are right now. So that starts at 10:45, by the way, for those of you who don't know, followed by our talk right now. So however you join with us, if you'd like to stay connected, be sure again to follow us on social media or in the chat room, send a private message with your contact information. Today's lesson is Beyond Right and Wrong. So we're exploring a teaching that's both ancient and incredibly relevant to us today. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, once wrote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, out beyond them, there is a field, and I'll meet you there." So let's hear that again. Make sure everyone takes it in. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. This is more than just a beautiful line of poetry. It's an invitation. But what is this field beyond right and wrong? What is this space of bliss? What is this space of grace? And how do we step into it? This field has been called the space beyond judgment and division, beyond labels and all opinions. It's the space where truth simply is, a place of energy, divine energy. It's a place where peace replaces conflict, and love replaces fear, and wisdom replaces ego. And this is not just a metaphor. This is a spiritual reality that we can step into at any moment. You'll hear me in many talks of many weeks talking about bringing ourselves to a new moment where we're quiet and where we know everything is possible, where we can be still and know that there is God in this moment, and we're a part of it. So we can bring ourselves into these moments where everything is possible. This realm is always present and always available. To enter it and to abide there, we must be willing to go beyond our usual way of thinking. And for the third time, we want to bring ourselves to a place where we're beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, and bring ourselves to a place where we know there is this field of this divine energy. And let's meet there. So you can see why Rumi's teaching is so relevant, so important, so beautiful right now. It certainly seems as though we live in a world where everything feels divided, where opinions are louder than ever, and where people seem to be pulled in various extremes, one way or another. We see it in politics, we see it in social media, we see it in our own relationships, we sometimes see it within our own families, and we can feel pulled in different directions within our own minds. The world teaches us to see everything in opposition. The world teaches us to see right versus wrong, good versus bad, us versus them. But what if there's another way to see? What if there's a way to have spiritual discernment and understanding? Well, there is, and that's what our teaching is all about. We teach and we know that there is one love, one life, one energy, and that energy is within us. So there's definitely another way. And those of you who attend here regularly are discovering it. You understand it. You're practicing it. Many of you understand these words very deeply. You understand when Louise said that all is well. You understood the deeper meaning of her words. All is well because she knew who she was. And we know that we are one with the one. We are individualizations of this energy. It lives in us. It moves in us. So today I'd like to ask the question to everyone who's listening, what if real transformation happens not in proving who's right or wrong? What if real transformation isn't about that at all? So let's ask the question, what would your life be if you just dropped all of that, all the judgment, all the right and wrong? And what if we saw ourselves as stepping into a higher place of understanding, where we understood truly that it's all spirit unfolding, or as my teacher used to say, it's all evoluting, it's evolving, it's unfolding perfectly in me, through me, and with everyone else, obviously. Dr. Bill, one of my favorite teachers of religious science, often reminded the classes, don't take things personally or so personally, because when we do, when we're being reactive, we let all the external things and situations dictate our inner peace. In effect, we're giving our power away. But when we practice the presence, what we call God realization, when we know that we are points of power within the very essence of this life, this creative intelligence, when we recognize that everything is unfolding within divine intelligence, we can then choose not to be offended. Instead of reacting to anything and everything, we can take that pause and we can genuinely and calmly be curious about what's going on. We can listen. We can learn. We can observe. We can say, okay, you can notice what's coming up for you without reacting. We can extend love. We can extend peace instead of being defensive and going into a place of separation. We live, we move, we have our being in this energy, this divine intelligence, this boundless love. We are one with it, one with the one. And it's always working, conspiring for our highest good. So knowing all of that, which I know many of you at least have taken it in and are starting to embrace it and believe it, why would we resist it? Why would we resist it, knowing that life is, we're in the perfect place, perfect time, and life is unfolding through us for a greater good? I know you consciously wouldn't want to resist that. I don't want to resist it either. Why would we push away the very power that is breathing life into us? And here's a metaphysical principle for us today. What we resist, we strengthen. Another expression, what we resist persists. But what we approach with awareness, with consciousness, if I approach a situation that I might have seen as negative, knowing that there's good in here for me, there's a gift in this. When I approach life with this kind of awareness, we transform. Resistance will lock us into a struggle, and it keeps us entangled in the very things that we'd love to be free of. But awareness is like liberation. Awareness that it's all God. It's all God and it's all good unfolding. Awareness that there's divine order liberates us. The moment we start pushing against life, the moment we start trusting life, or as some would say, leaning into life, the moment we surrender and work with it, trusting in the process of life, as Louise would say, everything begins to shift. See, this is a radical shift in how we show up in life once we're trusting the process of life. Because when we step beyond our inclination to react, when we step into this awareness that we're one with life, and you start to see other people as doing the best they can, when you step into all that, you're stepping into real power. Real power. Louise reminds us to trust the process of life. When we realize that life is unfolding perfectly, perfect place, perfect time, all the time, when we realize that, we no longer have to fight everything. We don't have to resist everything. We don't need to judge. Instead of exhausting ourselves in opposition, we can move with life. We can go with the flow. We can be engaged, but at peace. We can be aware, but not entangled. The more we learn to let go of the struggle, the more we discover that life is not against us, not at all. We discover that life is guiding us, carrying us, and calling us forward. I think it was Emerson who used to say, the universe is wooing us. Spirit always comes through for us. It's always there within us. If we can calm ourselves and center ourselves, we'll get the guidance that we need. So the more we let go of it all, the struggle, because life was not meant to be a struggle, the more we're going to discover, again, that life is not working against you, just the opposite. It's guiding you forward every step of the way. So in surrendering to this idea, we're not losing anything. We're not losing control. We're gaining through alignment with something far greater than we could ever orchestrate ourselves. Don Miguel Ruiz, who I quote often, author of the Four Agreements, advised us not to take anything personally. It's just perfect place, perfect time. Just release the need to personalize it all. And I'm here to tell you, it's easier to stay engaged. It's easier to stay connected with Source when we don't take things personally. When we take everything that happens personally, we're in a place of being disconnected all the time. It's kind of like a gotcha moment. So we want to release the need for that. We want to embrace the idea that all is well and everything's unfolding in the divine right way for our greater good. We have a goal. Our goal is to step beyond judgment and into transformation. When we live with the knowledge that life is unfolding perfectly, it's unfolding perfectly, and it's unfolding through you. It's unfolding perfectly in the world through all of us. When we really know this, we begin to ask important questions. You might ask, well, what is this moment teaching me? Or in many classes, I'll ask you to pay attention to what comes up for you in the given gathering. What is this moment causing you to realize? What am I learning from this experience is another good question. What would happen if I let go of this? That's a question we could all ask ourselves. What would happen if I let go of worry, my need to worry? What would happen if I let go of my resistance and I simply allowed it to be? When we ask these kind of questions of ourselves, we step beyond judgment and we step into the field where healing happens. But what does that look like in real life? I want to share a powerful example with you. I don't know if you've heard of this gentleman before. His name is Daryl Davis. He's a musician. Some of you will remember him. You can find him on TED Talks. You can find him on YouTube. His story is very interesting. It was a pleasure to read about him. Let me tell you, Daryl Davis is a Black musician, and he did something rather extraordinary as you take the time to read about him or listen to his story. He sat down, again, he's a Black man, he's a musician. He decided to sit down with members of the Ku Klux Klan. And you might ask, why would he ever want to do such a thing? What made him want to do that? What made him curious that he was willing to do something most of us would find unimaginable? So, of course, I was watching and reading everything I could about him this week and putting these notes together for this class. And he said something in his interviews that was very interesting. He said, I was curious about them. He told the story of how he was being harassed when he was younger, and people were throwing things at him when he was at school. And he said, I couldn't understand how someone could hate me when they didn't even know me. And instead of walking away, instead of reacting with anger, Daryl Davis got curious. And this all happened in the 1980s. And he was playing piano at a bar. He's a musician again. And after his performance, a white man came up, approached him, and said to him, I've never ever heard a Black man play like Jerry Lee Lewis before. And Daryl laughed and he replied, well, where do you think Jerry Lee Lewis learned how to play? And the man was surprised. And after having a conversation, he admitted something shocking. He said, this is my first time I've ever sat down and had a drink with a Black man. Then the gentleman revealed something shocking. He revealed to Daryl that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, most people at that point would walk away, or they would be, they just, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Most people would have reacted with rage or disgust, or maybe even been fearful. Most people would have shut the door and never looked back. But Daryl Davis, that wasn't the way he approached it. He leaned in. He didn't lash out. He didn't take the bait. He didn't make it about himself. Instead, he did something most of us wouldn't even think to do. He was curious about this guy. So he started asking him some questions. He just wanted to understand, not to justify and not to excuse. He decided to listen because he knew that people don't change when they feel shamed. So they change when they feel seen. This was an important lesson. So by doing so, he planted a seed. He had one conversation with this man and he had another and another. And if you watch any of the video, you will see over time how they got to know each other. Conversation after conversation, meeting after meeting. And over time, through small but deliberate acts of connection, they became more than just two men on opposite sides of the divide. They became real acquaintances and maybe even in a way, friends. Daryl took it, though, a step further. That's why his story is so interesting. He started seeking out Klan members, if you can imagine. Remember, he's a Black musician. He was requesting meetings, sitting down face to face with people who had been raised to hate him. And he started engaging in real conversations. First, many of these folks were defensive. Some refused to listen. Some pushed back. Some even clung tighter to their old beliefs. But time and time again, as they kept talking, something started to shift. Over time, though, through nothing more than simple human connection, more than 200 Klansmen left the Klan. Not only did they leave, they handed Daryl their robes. So this is a story you can watch on YouTube if you're interested. They handed over their robes, and here's the thing, a silent but powerful symbol of transformation. So this all started with Daryl being curious and going for a connection, which is something I speak about in many lessons. Are you coming from connection? So he definitely was, and he was curious. That is the power of stepping beyond judgment. And this isn't just about large-scale change, and this isn't about a history or race-breaking barriers. This story really, in a way, is about all of us, because what happens when the person we're judging isn't someone else, but ourselves. We have this inner thing going on. It's almost like an inner battle, inner battlefield. What if the real war, the question for today, what if the real war isn't out there? Because we're always have a tendency to be pointing to what's going on in the world and with other people. What if the real war isn't happening out there, not in the conflicts that we see on the news, not in the divisions we feel in the world, not in the person we think who's wrong or right, or what's unfair or unworthy? What if the real war, the only war, is within us? Because the truth is, there is nothing outside of us. If you're looking at it metaphysically, there's only this energy. Every time we judge, we're really judging a part of ourselves. You've heard the old adage of it. A finger pointing at you, I have 3 fingers pointing back at me. What I see in others is the unhealed stuff in myself. So every time we judge, we're really judging a part of ourselves. Every time we resent, we are resisting something unresolved in ourselves. Every time we lash out, we are projecting an unhealed wound onto the world. And when we understand this, we really get it, something shifts. You'll find that you don't have so much to say. Instead of fighting, instead of defending, instead of resisting, we then get curious, like Daryl did. We lean in. We stop running. We stop running from ourselves. And finally, we face the truth. What if stepping beyond self-judgment isn't just about being kinder to ourselves? And being kinder to ourselves is important, as you hear me teach every week or present. What if we come to realize that all the battles we are fighting out there have always been inner battles in disguise? Again, the question is, what if we come to realize that all these battles that we're fighting with the world and out there have always been an inner battle in disguise? I want to remind you of a story that I told once before, a story about the woman who almost didn't apply for her dream job. If you don't remember, this was the woman who nearly talked herself out of it, her dream job. But what I didn't tell you is what happened after she got the job. For the first few months, she felt like she was a complete fraud. Every morning she walked in the office convinced that today was the day that someone would pull her aside and say, "We made a mistake. This job isn't really for you." Because she second-guessed every single decision. And because of it, she worked harder than anyone else, not out of passion, but out of fear. Not because she had to, but because she was afraid that if she slowed down even for a second, everyone would realize that she wasn't enough. And then one day something happened, something shifted. Her boss pulled her aside and she braced herself, expecting the worst. But instead, he smiled and said, "You know, you have something wonderful about you, really special. People feel safe when you're here. Your very presence changes the atmosphere, changes the room." And in that moment, she learned something. She realized something. She thought, maybe I wasn't the one fooling people. Maybe I was the one who didn't see myself clearly. Again, she woke up that she wasn't fooling people. Maybe she was the one who didn't see herself clearly. How many of us have done the same thing? How many of us have spent years doubting ourselves, waiting for someone to give us permission to believe that we're already enough? How many of us have felt like imposters in our own lives? not because we're not capable, but because we've spent so much time listening to the voices of self-doubt, replaying old fears and doubts over and over again, recycling the same tired old belief that I'm not okay, I'm not enough. Louise Hay, of course, reminds us that's the root of nearly every problem, whether it's self-doubt, procrastination, fear, or even physical illness. When we don't feel good about ourselves, when we have these underlying issues, we hesitate, we hold back, we second guess our gifts, we reject opportunities before life even has a chance to say yes to us. And then we wonder why we feel stuck. But here's the truth. Self-criticism is just another form of resistance. It's the voice inside of us that says, I'll never get this right. I can't do this. I am not good enough. Or I don't deserve this success. I don't deserve this. Or, if you really knew me, I don't deserve it. But who does that voice really belong to? Because you weren't born doubting yourself. You come into the world, as Louise would say, as this beautiful baby where the whole world is responding to us. We weren't born with this self-doubt. We definitely learned it. And if we learned it, we can unlearn it. So today, what if just for today, we stopped arguing for our limitations? What if today, instead of criticizing ourselves, we spoke to ourselves the way we would a dear friend? What if today we chose to believe that we're already whole, complete, that we're already enough? Because self-doubt doesn't just affect how we see ourselves, it affects how we show up in life. It's the voice that keeps us hesitant instead of confident. It's the energy that keeps us stuck instead of moving forward. Self-doubt is the invisible wall between us and everything we say we want. And Louise Hay would say, you've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Many of us have, as Rumi suggested, want to meet ourselves in the field beyond these places of right and wrong. And here's the invitation. Instead of judging ourselves, let's embrace ourselves just the way we are, without any conditions. You might say, I love, accept, and approve of myself exactly as I am. Instead of criticizing ourselves, let's start getting curious about why things are coming up. Kind of like Daryl did in our story. Let's get curious, not in a harsh way, not with blame or guilt. Gentle curiosity. And curiosity will sound like, why do I feel this way? Why is this coming up for me? Rather than shaming yourself for what's happening. So why is this coming up? What can I learn from this? Or you could ask yourself, is this still true for me? And instead of attacking ourselves or criticizing ourselves, we get to know ourselves better. And when we understand ourselves better, we begin to heal. Instead of assuming, I can't do this or I can't do that, maybe we'll start asking ourselves, what if I can? Or what if I could? What if we're more capable? What if we find that we're more capable than we ever believed? What if we've had what we needed all along? So let's be real. These words are easy to say, but they're not always easy to live, because real transformation happens through practice. It's in small moments. It's in moments of stillness, the moments when we start to doubt ourselves, the moments where fear creeps in, the moments when we're tempted to shrink instead of stepping forward. And in these kind of moments, curiosity becomes a gift. Because when you choose curiosity, we stop being our own worst critic. We start to notice what's happening. We process it a little. We start becoming our own best friend, and that will change everything. Many of us, again, have spent years judging ourselves. We have become so familiar with self-criticism that it feels almost like a reflex. We have learned to downplay our worth, second-guess our instincts, and hold ourselves back. So how do we actually stop and step beyond judgment into self-acceptance? The question is, what does it really look like to meet ourselves with radical self-love? I'd like you all to imagine yourself walking into a room full of every past version of yourself. First, you see the child who was once carefree and joyful. before life taught you to be cautious. Then you noticed a teenager who struggled with self-doubt, trying to figure out where they belonged in life. And the next version of yourself, the young adult who made mistakes and learned lessons, lesson after lesson. And now notice the person you are today, still evolving, still growing. Now, imagine looking at each one of these versions of yourself with the same love and the same kindness that you would give a dear friend. Would you judge the child for not knowing better? Would you criticize yourself as a teenager for your insecurities? Would you blame your young adult for the things you didn't yet understand? Or would you hold each version of yourself with compassion and appreciation, knowing that every step of your journey has led you here, right now? So now let's close with an affirmative prayer. Knowing that these words are already true for all of us, I turn my awareness inward, recognizing that every version of me has always done the best it could with what it knew at the time. And I extend that same grace to myself right now. I declare I'm a spectacular individualization of source, whole, worthy, and complete. I release all judgment of myself and others, and I open my heart fully to love. I trust my own becoming, knowing that every experience has led me to this moment right now, this moment of truth and transformation. Right here, right now, I affirm that I am enough. I've always been enough, and I walk forward in the knowing, in this knowing, free and empowered, and ready to embrace life fully, and so it is. So it is. So let's take a moment, reflect. What insight did you gain today? What resonated with your heart? What small shift can you make today to step beyond judgment and into love? So I want to open up the floor to hear from anyone and everyone. If you're new, please say that you're new, where you're from. Your voice matters here. Your journey matters here as well. And together, we step beyond judgment and into healing. And so it is, and so we'll see you in just a moment. Thank you.